If you look at on a global scale, the coal contributes to 25% of the world global greenhouse gas emission. In the United States, 50% of the electricity generation comes from coal. Only 20% come from nuclear fusion reactors. About 7% come from hydro, and 2% petroleum.
See, nuclear became a dirty word, though, didn't it?
But the issue is when you look at nuclear, currently is about 20% that United States generate from electricity from nuclear fusion reactors. There are a lot of issues about nuclear fusion reactors. There's the issue of safety. Another issue, how to now handle nuclear waste. So the issue of nuclear fusion reactors may not be the best alternative. It's not safe. The waste is a huge issue to handle. And a number of issues. So the issue will be...
But we should not forget the enormous technological progress which has been taking place and is taking place. I mean, 50, 60 years ago, we wouldn't be discussing nuclear as an option as we are doing today. So I think when we are talking about solutions and how we should plan our economies and so on, we must take into account the process of innovation and technological advancement that we are seeing happening almost every year now.
For the first time, we were getting a lot of questions from people just writing in to put to the panelists. I might put this to you, Doctor, because it concerns Africa and other places like that. Somebody from Nigeria actually wrote in, and the question was, what sanctions do you think the developed world should face for not complying with the terms of the international community if there is such a consensus that comes up? What should the developed world face? Because the point that Celestine said, because they make most of their wealth by endangering other poor nations, by contributing rapidly to global warming.
If you look at it, the contribution of Africa to the issue of climate change is very little. And the major polluter are the developed countries. For instance, the United States contributes about 22% to the world global greenhouse gases. And when you look at it also, majority of this, like we've had the majority of it comes from coal. And for instance, coal contributes about 25% to the world greenhouse gases. And Africa pay very dearly for it. And recent studies have shown that Africa and Southeast Asia will likely suffer most. For instance, we expect drought in some parts of Africa, extreme hunger. We expect malaria, issues of malaria in some places like Nairobi that is not even expected before. I think the issue should be the issue of polluter pay principle. And, but enforcement is something...
What leverage does Africa have?
Yeah, I think the attention should be that the International Development Organization and developed countries should allocate some funds to mitigate, against climate change effects in Africa.
Let me ask all of the panelists, and anyone please jump in. How important is it to get some sort of global consensus on the direction that we need to move?
I believe that the global consensus is moving in such a direction that everybody will see it in their interest to join hands. People often say, what about China and India? The last year or two, the leadership of China and India have realized that whoever created the CO2 problem, primarily the United States and Europe, the melting of the glaciers in the Himalayas will create potentially the greatest global ecological disaster on Earth, bigger than the rising of the sea levels. And it will primarily affect China and India. So whether they like it or not, the melting of the glaciers in the Himalayas in the next 30 or 40 years will create enormous economic and food and electricity and human problems, because all the great rivers of India and China originate in the Himalayas. So all of this together is creating a consensus based on self-interest. It is not a humanitarian consensus or simply goodwill. It is hard-headed, interest-driven consensus.
Mr. Alamati, Qatar is the highest producer of CO2 per capita in the world. It's not necessarily a fair analogy, I know, because there's a lot of variations in that, but that is a statistic that's out there, a UN statistic. I mean, what in this region is being done to raise awareness and to raise that issue?